what does it cost to save a life? When they were first talking about lockdowns, I remember sitting there going, this is a really extreme thing to do, to lock down a country, to try and lock down the world. This is a really, really big conversation. And it seemed to me that they weren't thinking things through. It was a reactive conversation. It was something like, this is going to get out there. How can we prevent it? What can we do? We must lock down. And from a basic level, I remember sitting there and talking with people I know and talking with doctors and nurses and saying, if we lock down the country, there are going to be phenomenal repercussions. And we've recently seen this play out in real time. We now know how much it's cost in terms of human life. The World Health Organization released a statement, and in it they say that the deaths attributed to COVID are 3 times higher than the ones from the actual disease itself. And what they're talking about is they're saying that there's been so many excess deaths in terms of shutting down hospitals, the economy being stopped, what that's actually meant when it comes to mental health. These things have attributed to 2.75 deaths per one that the disease itself was attributed to. Now, I started thinking about this, and the minute that I read it, I was like, this is the issue that me and millions of other people had when they started talking about lockdowns. It is the fundamental core problem. That was the first thing. What will this cost? And it turns out that for every life that has been taken with the disease, at least someone that has been sick with it, 2.75 more deaths have occurred because of how we tried to handle the pandemic. Then I started thinking, I'm like, well, who's been telling us how to handle the pandemic? Who's been giving us clearly really bad advice? And it's the World Health Organization, and it's United Nations, and it's Bill Gates, who himself is not a qualified scientist, but everyone doesn't seem to care about that. Not a qualified doctor, but no one seems to care about that. These people have given us, have instructed and have forced us to fire staff. They've said, oh, you've got to lock down. Oh, you've got to make sure that people go into isolation, sometimes for up to 2 weeks, even though there were people who actually needed saving, that had life-threatening illnesses and issues that were in hospital that then couldn't get looked after. We were given advice that epidemiologists and scientists that had no financial benefit, they told us we should not be doing these things. This is really, really, really wrong. And yet we still went ahead and did them. So who is going to be accountable? The WHO are now trying to say, the World Health Organization, they are now trying to say that all countries should sign a wider agreement when it comes to pandemic control. And what they want that to mean is that the WHO, the World Health Organization, and the United Nations would have precedent over a country's sovereignty when it came to dealing with pandemics. And I sit there and I say, well, have they handled this one well? From their own words, 2.75 deaths for every one of the actual disease because of how we've handled the pandemic. I'll leave it up to you. What do you think?